What's a random asterisk thing you remember from your childhood? Someone my mom knew came over for a visit. Her son and I went outside to play. He accidentally rattled a bee's nest. They started swarming. He yelled, "Run for your life." So I did. The last thing I remember was looking back while running away and seeing him punching the bees. I don't know who he was or what happened to him. My mom has no recollection of this. Edit. On second thought, his last words to me might have been, "Save your seal LLLFFFF." I was in kindergarten and I had collected these huge nuts from a tree during recess. A girl across from me had a huge birthmark on her arm and I kept staring at it. She got upset at me and was about to tell the teacher. I said, "No, please. Here. Have a nut." She smirked, gladly took the nut, and didn't tell on me. I remember laying in a play tent on my back with my legs crossed in the air, bobbing my foot, surrounded by stuffed animals, looking at a picture book pretending I could read. Either in preschool or kindergarten. It's a nice little calming flash of childhood that pops into my head every now and then. I once had a dream where a gorilla walked into my room, grabbed and casually ripped out my hair, it didn't hurt though, ate it, and then walked out. That's it. Has stuck with me for 20 years. I once peed my bed and got up to go tell my mom. But when I walked into the hallway there were inches of water on the ground because the washer had flooded it. I just sat down on the floor, in the dark, and cried because I thought I had flooded the house with my pee. Edit. My first gold is on a comment about me peeing myself. I'm not upset. Thank you, kind stranger. I also remember pretending to be a chef and I took a bowl and put mud, grass, clovers, dirt, and water in it while commentator about the creation of the dish. I remember my dad trying to drown me. My brother also remembers this, but my mother denied it ever happened until my wedding day. Remember my dad telling me, "You're no longer 3, little boy," on my 4th birthday. Remember me crying in 1st grade because I couldn't find my friend, and perhaps the most cringy thing I remember is trying to pee in a bottle, then missing it and peeing all over the car. I was 6. When I was 8 I first learned about. So the following day I went up to all my friends' parents in the public swimming pool that everyone went to because it was summer, and kept saying stuff like, "Did you have? You had. Did you have to make Caden?" etc. All while laughing. And then wondering why they all looked so offended. Despite me clearly understanding it was a taboo subject. My dad swiftly took me home once he learned. I guess one of the parents must have eventually complained. I even remember being like, "Aw, I wish Connor's mom was there, then I could have asked her." Yeah. For some reason, I wrestled with a goose. Got me pinned down and pecked on chest, throat while I use all my strength as a 7-year-old kid trying to choke its long neck. Dad came to rescue me and then I cried until I was asleep. I think I was about 3. Which means my brother was 5. We went to a friend of my mom's house. The lady had 3 sons. All of the boys got to go play in the yard on their slip and slide. But I had to sit at the kitchen table with the moms, doing nothing while they talked and talked forever. I was really mad. At the time I thought it was because I was the only girl. In hindsight, maybe it was because I was too small and they thought I would get hurt. Still, they could have given me something to do. I remember my younger brother and I taking a Ziploc bag of quarters to the arcade and playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles until we beat Shredder on the final level. Had a crowd around us by that time. When Shrek came out, Heinz released ketchup in bright green and purple. Bunny Man. Weird dude in a bunny suit used to roll up outside my elementary school on a custom bike, blaring creepy carnival music out of a portable record player, sped up, too. So the voices were high and warbled. It was a whole thing. Parents were worried he was a pedophile and trying to groom or abduct a kid. Back when I lived with my mother. I want to say I was 4 or 5 years old. I built a paint roller out of Legos and I would go around the house painting the walls. I had a sink fall on my head when I was 3 or 4. Was at an orange-themed home improvement store. Wandered away from my parents while they were looking at vanities and saw a pretty porcelain sink on the second shelf. I tried to climb up to get a better look, grabbing the rim of the sink. Apparently it wasn't secured and already tilted at an angle. So the entire thing tipped over and took me down. I remember screaming on the floor with huge shards of porcelain around me. Had an irrational fear, hatred of that store for a long time. I was eating a bag of chocolate cookies and let one fall to the floor. An old lady that had just bought some saw me desperately try to reach it and offered one. I accepted and was about to eat it when my mom came out of absolutely nowhere and slapped it right out of my hand, scaring me shitless. Turns out she thought it was the floor cookie. Nowadays she justifies it by saying, "You shouldn't accept food from strangers." I remember when the Yorkie bars were advertised as "not for girls." Forward thinking, aren't they? When I was 6 I got really upset because I wanted one but they were not for girls, but I took that literally because I was a kid. Nowadays, I eat Yorkies a lot purely out of spite because I have never forgotten the torment they caused me all those years ago. They taste great, though. I remember very vividly. One day, sitting at the lunch table with my second grade class, a kid down the table picked up his orange juicy juice box and said, "I can suck this baby down in 2 seconds flat." He did. Reader. I married him 20 years later. Ants. Lots of ants. I have a vague memory of being woken up by my mom telling me that we should leave our small wooden house immediately. Fast forward and I'm looking at our house absolutely full of ants, crawling through the walls, covering the entire structure of that small shack we used to live in. I could even see some ants carrying cockroaches that were inside the house, now becoming food for that unstoppable army. Then they just went away. It was like our house was just in their way and they moved on. We lived nearby a small river. Lots of trees and such. I don't know how legit is this memory. Maybe my child perspective made things look 10 times worse. But I can vividly see this. My brother and I were obsessed with WWE Raw, and for some reason we decided to replicate one of those body slams using a big cardboard box. We were like 7 to 10 years old and it didn't cross our minds that our body weight would actually smash the box. Well, my brother ended up doing that elbow move we all see on resting on the box and he ended up breaking his arm. He was in so much pain, and now that I think about it I think I was rooting him on to do it, lol. We didn't have much money back then, so that trip to the ER off my dad. I remember when I was 5 or 6 a guy from my neighborhood told me happy birthday. I responded, "Happy birthday to you too, Tommy." Then I ran away mortified that I had responded to his happy birthday with the same reply. I felt like such a putz. Plot twist, it was his birthday too, so my response surprised him. I had no idea. As a kid, I had a huge crush on my best friend. Honestly, I can see why, he was a good guy. Anyway, I had told him I was moving to a different part of the city and wouldn't be going to the same school anymore. He hugged me and said, "I love you. You're my best friend." I'll never forget that moment, as it's the only time anyone has ever said those words to me. Once in 2nd grade, one remember looking for my sister everywhere and crying all day because I couldn't find her. She was in the 4th grade and would always play in the same area during recess, but she just wasn't there that day. I was distraught until final period when I remembered she was on a school trip. I had just completely forgotten and had spent all day crying. We were like 2 years old. In the kindergarten. And the teacher asked us if we drinked milk from the baby bottle or from the mug. Everybody answered, but there was this guy who said, "I drink from the glass." I never forgot that moment for some reason. Pretty random. My mom had a friend over and they were hanging out on the back patio. My dad came and got me with a mischievous look on his face. He lit a smoke bomb and threw it out a 2nd-story window so it landed in the grass. And we both giggled. The women didn't react at all. Just, "Ha. Dad must have thrown that." Playing darts in the garden with my brother. Going to pick up said darts to be helpful and ending up with a dart stuck in my head. What's crazy now that I think about it is all my mum did was pour antiseptic liquid on the hole and that was it. No visit to the doctor. Peeing in my garage in front of all my friends. My dad was. One time, we were moving into a new house when I was like 4. And my dad said he had a PlayStation we could set up. I distinctly remember thinking it was one of those mats with toys for little kids to play on. My 9th birthday was the best ever because when I got home from school my mom gave me my present, which was the Play-Doh barber shop. I don't know why I remember that so vividly. It's not even the best gift I've ever been given. I was a kid in the 1970s. I remember that for America's bicentennial. President Ford wanted everyone to ring their doorbells at 2 p.m. on July 4. 1976.